Welcome to all of my beautiful, vibrant souls with their North Node in Scorpio. For any of my little cross watchers out there, maybe you got somebody special in your life with this placement, you want to know more about it, you want to do a deep dive. But yeah, hello, welcome. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm going to put that out there right now. My asthma and allergies are acting up horribly. So I'm really sorry for any coughing, sneezing, sniffling, scratchy voice, all that good stuff. I'm doing my best. But yeah, so I'm really excited to get into this reading today. We have a lot to cover. So there's a little bit of stray hair. That one's me. It's not even my cat. I can't even blame that on him. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into your North Node placement. Before I even get into what this placement entails, I do kind of want to preface this with a big time caveat that this is talking about the North Node and Scorpio placement in general. However, this will be very unique to the individual based on your personal astrology. So particularly strong emphasis on the house that it's in, as well as how it's aspected with other planetary energies in a person's chart. So keep that in mind. Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you are looking for this reading for yourself, I don't have it up and offered as a let me try this again. Back up, Sinessa. I don't have it currently offered as like a permanent fixture in my shop. But I do take custom order requests. If I get enough custom order requests or comments on these videos, etc., I will add it as a permanent fixture. So it's not like if you go to my shop link in the description box, it's not up and posted, but you can always request a custom order and DM me, and I'm happy to make that for you. So yeah, that's that. I want to kind of talk about, that's the other caveat. Thank you for reminding me. So I want to kind of make this with a major, other sort of important point here that your North Node journey is really a lifelong journey. So the messages, whenever you're finding them, because this is a timeless reading, the messages that are finding you now, excuse my burp, are for wherever you find them on your North Node journey. Meaning that these have, this video has some type of prevalent information, or not prevalent, pertinent. There we go, I was close. Pertinent information for your journey at this time. However, whenever you're finding this, maybe a year, 3 years after that point, 3 years from now, you might find that the messages for your North Node journey look really different. So just keep that in mind. This isn't like a, for your entire journey thing. This is for where you are right now. So yeah, with that, let's get started. So I want to explain first how, kind of what this placement is really going to be about. And then we're going to get into your oracle cards. And then I have a tarot deck shuffled ready to go for further messages. So, North Node Scorpio. I have so much I want to say about this. I'm trying to I have 10,000 thoughts that are all colliding into each other. It's just like a traffic accident. So I'm trying to kind of sift through the rubble of whatever's going on in my brain space. So your North Node is the energy that you are being asked to move toward, to embrace, to embody in this lifetime. This is, kind of a placement of destiny. This also can be a placement that can potentially point you toward a life purpose, just depending on, again, your chart, your, circumstances of your personal life journey up until this point, etc. But the reason why this is the energy that you're being asked to master, or not to, well, yes, to master, but to move toward in this lifetime, is that we kind of can't talk about your North Node without talking about your South Node. So I also have another series up on my channel that are South Node messages. If you feel so compelled, maybe checking out your South Node, which would be in Taurus for you, might be a helpful excuse me, a helpful process. But your North and South Node, first and foremost, are always opposites from one another on the wheel of the zodiac. And your South Node is the energy that you have already mastered. This is why many people think your South Node placement reflects a past life. Because it's an energy that you're already very familiar with. It's something that you default to. It's something that you know very well, right? And as opposed to other kind of placements in your chart that you might be prone to default to, your South Node isn't one that's like necessarily solely based in kind of like an ego mask, right? Or like a comfort zone that we sort of default to. Your South Node is an energy that you default to because in the past life that's coming through, I don't know why I said because like that was really weird, because I just tripped over my words, sorry guys. Excuse me, because in the past life that's coming through as represented by your South Node in your chart, this is the energy that you mastered, and it served you very, very well. So as opposed to some people feel that your ascendant can represent your personality as it's sort of filtered through, again, ego mask. And I say all this with a lot of trepidation because there's a lot of debate within the astrological community. So I'm just referencing what I mean by like an ego placement potentially. As opposed to it being something that you default to because it's your comfort zone. It is something that you default to because you know it so well and because it served you in the past life that's coming through, right? And the reason why your North Node is always opposite is that if you've already mastered Taurus, you're being asked to move toward traits of Scorpio in order to equilibrate and seek balance at a soul level. And the way this manifests is going to be very different for each person, again, very highly specific to your chart. Excuse me. So for example, if you have a lot of positively aspected placements in your chart about career and finances with South Node and Taurus, this is really asking you to make, your spiritual pursuits a priority in this lifetime, right? That's what that would be. Whereas if, you're having a lot more placements about that can reflect like issues in childhood, this could be about redefining your relationship to fear and control, right? So this is going to be different for everyone is what I'm trying to say very long-windedly and circuitously. So you're being asked to move towards Scorpio energy in order to equilibrate and seek balance at a soul level. And so one thing that happens I think is really important to talk about, and this is a broad strokes, very, very brief overview. If you want me to do a separate video and a deeper dive onto this topic, please let me know because I'm happy to do this, is that your South Node throughout your lifetime, it's still going to serve you, but you will know when you're being pushed to move toward your North Node more. And anecdotally, this tends to be usually in some type of correlation with people's spiritual awakening, expansion, moving toward their life purpose, big things like that. Not always, but I just noticed anecdotally it tends to, again, go hand in hand. Excuse me. My goodness, I'm sorry. But you will know when you're being encouraged to move toward your North Node because you'll essentially start to experience what I call South Node burnout. And this is where your South Node energy is going to become less effective for you, right? And this can look a number of different ways, but some kind of, overarching themes that you might see is that you might start to become more internally burnt out when you're utilizing your South Node energy. You might find that your South Node energy starts to become less effective for you in general. You might find that utilizing your South Node energy or leaning on it is not only less effective, but maybe garnering more interpersonal issues, like people are fighting you on it more. People are less pleased with your work. And so essentially what this can boil down to is like you're doing your thing and then all of a sudden your thing doesn't work for you anymore. Whether it's like, I can't do this anymore, or, it's like the energy of like, wow, people used to really appreciate this about me, or at the very least I used to be able to get by like this, but I cannot give this away. It's kind of the energy. And another thing that can kind of happen is that as your South Node kind of starts to become less and less effective, it can start to kind of, I guess I'm going to say, sorry, what is going on with my chair, you guys? Oh my God, it was a piece of my cat's claw was stuck in my chair. I'm like, what is this scratchy thing that I'm touching? It was a piece of my cat's claw. He does that thing where he stretches and like flexes his claws on stuff all the time. Sorry about that. It was going to bug me until I figured it out. I was like, why are you scratching me? It's like slightly pointy, but not. Okay. Excuse me. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So when this starts to happen, this is also where utilizing your South Node energy can create more problems for you than it solves, right? It can also kind of create more shadow-based cycles for you. And so these are all kind of like hints. These are clues that you're being encouraged to kind of, exit stage, right? And by doing that, it's, this is like the universe giving you a 5-minute warning, essentially. And so these are all kind of like indicators that, okay, my South Node might not be working for me as well anymore. So what does it mean to have South Node in Taurus and North Node in Scorpio? This can mean a lot of things. Excuse me. For some people, and I'm not getting this feeling as much, like by the very virtue of the fact that you found this video and you were drawn into watching it, this is probably not you, but I will put this out here. This placement can reflect somebody who's very comfortable in the material world, and like I said, somebody who needs to focus more on their spiritual pursuits. This also can indicate, the Scorpio-Taurus axis for, to me, is all about security and control, right? And thus it's also about feelings of fear, and especially fear of loss. So all oppositional signs on the wheel of the zodiac are like trying to solve a problem or address an issue, and they start at opposite ends of the spectrum, and the goal excuse me, I'm so sorry. The goal is to kind of borrow from one another until you meet in the middle and you create a blended, holistic, balanced approach to addressing this issue or solving the problem. So like I said, this axis to me is a lot about security and control. Taurus rules the 2nd house, Scorpio rules the 8th house. The 2nd house is all about what we value, right? Oh my God, I'm sorry guys, hang on. Woof, there we go. That one was hefty. That put hair on my chest. I don't know why that one made me laugh. Sorry, guys. I'm in a funny mood today. But yeah, so Taurus rules the 2nd house. This is a lot about what we find security and what we value. In the story of the Wheel of the Zodiac, we have the 1st house, which is the house of the self. The 2nd house is where we essentially start to differentiate between the self and our main caregiver. And this is why it talks about the things we value. So on the, more external 3D level, this is why it talks about, your house, your material possessions, your career, your finances. It can also talk about your special skills that you just do exceedingly well, right? Like that's you are uniquely gifted in XYZ way, right? Or area. And it's because, again, how we value things. So externally, the things we place value on because we get a sense of security out of it, as well as internally how we value ourselves. Oh my God, sorry guys. I'm trying. So yeah, this is kind of what this can talk about a little bit. Now, Taurus is also very much known for, being very grounded in the 5 senses. They like their sensory pleasures, the good food, the fine wine. They like the pleasurable music, the good smelling things, all that great stuff. And one of the things this can kind of talk about as well, Taurus is very much known for liking to have their comfort zone really, really heavily. So this also can kind of be reflected in this placement, is that you might be somebody who's very, you like things the way you like them, because it's very comfortable for you. And the thing that people kind of gloss over, and I think we know this, and we know this intellectually, but we don't stop to really think about what it means, is a comfort zone is what makes us feel, comforted. What makes us feel secure, what makes us feel safe in the world around us. And so Taurus is very comfortable with those themes, or at least comfortable with those themes within a certain margin. So it's like Taurus can kind of recognize, okay, I like things to be this way. I feel good. I feel grounded. I'm like, whew, I got this. Sorry guys, hang on. Excuse me. And this can even look with, South Node Taurus, North Node Scorpio. This can even be somebody who will outright admit that, yeah, I just like things the way I like them. Or I know I'm a little particular, but this is what's comfortable for me. I like it like this. This is how I want it to be. So there's that recognition, but there's no growth. Or there's limited growth, again, very much dependent on the individual. So North Node in Scorpio can kind of be a call to become more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That can definitely be how this placement sort of manifests, where, learning how to kind of let go of things, right? And again, what's at the core of this axis is the relationship to control, which is always actually the relationship to fear, right? And that's why we try to control things when we're afraid of what will happen when we don't. And both of these signs really love control in their own way. Now, Scorpio tends to go about it totally differently, right? What's in Scorpio's shadow is a little bit like, okay, I can't control, the outside world. I can't control XYZ, so I'm going to try to control, the ethereal, but I'm also going to try to control things by, allowing them to fall apart, allowing them to be destroyed, right? Excuse me. So, Taurus can kind of like to control things by keeping everything the same. Scorpio can kind of like to control things by being like, nothing will stay the same. Let me at it. Let me tear it down. Because at least there's a sense of control in that. And that's a very, very broad level overview, but that can kind of be at the core of this sort of axis. Now, another thing this can kind of talk about, so Taurus is ruled by Libra, and Scorpio is ruled by, in traditional astrology, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, right? So we have, I think I just said Taurus is ruled by Libra. Taurus, that's unintentionally so true sometimes. Taurus is ruled by Venus is what I meant. There we go. So we have the feminine principle and the masculine principle. So for some of you, part of this North Node placement is getting very much in touch with your masculine energy. Now for others, some of you are, this was a huge thing I was picking up. This placement can really be about needing to become comfortable with destruction. And what I was kind of getting from this is that some of you might, because of South Node and Taurus, right? What does this mean? This is somebody who isn't afraid to put in the work, isn't afraid to take things one step at a time, isn't afraid to build no matter how long it takes, right? That's one of the beautiful things about Taurus is like, I don't care if it takes me a day or 50 years, I'm going to get there. Just let me go step by step by step. Taurus is patient as all get out. For the most part, until they're not. But generally speaking, Taurus is known, especially when it comes to their goals, things that they value, things that they see being long-term or secure. Yep, they will sweat it out. They will just do it one step at a time. They can't be rushed. And so that's kind of like the strength, right? Taurus will build, Taurus will create. No matter how much time and investment it takes, they're going to get there. But having your South Node here, so that's a beautiful thing. You may be somebody who, when you put value on something, you're all in, right? Especially if, you have any other important Taurus placements, like you have, I don't know, depending on what it is. So if you have other Taurus placements or second house placements, this could kind of point to where you might be most prone to do that. Let's say if you had Moon or Venus in the second house or in Taurus, this would be like in relationships, when you put value on it, when you've decided that you're going to go after something, you're all in. And I do kind of see that, but like, again, with the Venus and the Mars connection here, something that you guys might be prone to doing is that like when you put that value on something, you want to build, you value creativity, you value that process of bringing things into being, into fruition, into manifestation. But something that you might struggle with having your North Node in Scorpio with that Mars energy is knowing when to tear something down. That's a huge thing I was getting. A phrase that was coming through is the sunken cost fallacy, right? So South Node Taurus, North Node Scorpio, for this group of people who are stumbling across this message, what I'm getting more than anything else is, excuse me, you might be prone to, once you put that value on something, it's like you have a really, really hard time being able to let it go. You have a hard time cutting your losses. You don't know exactly when to walk away. And this is going to create more and more and more turbulence for you the farther into your North Node journey you go. And the whole entire point is because it's pushing you to know, I think we think about, excuse me, the divine feminine and divine masculine concepts as mutually exclusive in terms of creation versus destruction. And we tend to we tend to say that we revere creation and abhor destruction, but we support destruction more often than not, societally, so especially fiscally. And I could rant about this all day. I'll save you guys the lecture because the air up on my high horse grows thin. But something that's really important here is, we can't have one without the other. If we just have constant creation and bringing things into fruition, eventually we will have no more space for anything, right? Overabundance is equally problematic as lack. And so we need that destructive principle. We also need that destruction to tear down what's not working anymore. Scorpio is great for that type of energy. And, Taurus can struggle with that. So we need that destruction to tear down what doesn't work anymore. We need that destruction to be able to make room to make the next, to build better, right? To have steadier foundations, to do better, right? Once we know better, ideally we do better. And so we need both creation and destruction to work in tandem and to work harmoniously with one another. Excuse me. So for this group, I feel like you're very, you struggle to get in touch with that sort of sacred destruction, right? Because that's very much Scorpio energy too. Scorpio energy is very intuitive, very, very psychic, very claircognizant as well. Can really in addition to being a human BS detector. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm trying my best. And so having North Node in Scorpio, this can really be where, the TLDR here is, this is the placement where you're being encouraged to lean on your intuition further, right? South Node in Taurus, you might be particularly prone to really wanting to bank off of the things you can tangibly observe, right? So maybe you are very gifted spiritually, psychically, but you have a hard time trusting that until it's right in front of your eyes, right? And there's something here about needing to trust your intuition more, needing to take a leap of faith more, particularly when it comes to ending things. I cannot stress this enough. Excuse me. South Node in Taurus likes to keep things the same, likes to keep building, likes to keep taking, first I do A, and then I'm going to do B, and then I'm going to do C, right? And it's like, I'm going to keep following my plan, following the steps. And so this group, I feel like, has a really, really hard time when that plan gets disrupted. This group also probably has a very, very hard time, like I said, knowing when to cut their losses, knowing when to let go of something, knowing when, and again, it really stems to, or it comes down to that whole concept of, building things and investing in things that you put a lot of value on, right? So for this group, what this can kind of equate to is to cut your losses with something you've already put that value on, is to essentially to have to question yourself really, really heavily and be like, well, I thought this was going to be a solid bet. I thought this was going to be, I thought this was going to be something that I could really invest my time and energy and labor into. If I let go of this, what does this mean? What is it? What are the next steps for me? I feel like when you guys have to finally, it's like it might take you guys a while to make a plan, but when you do, or like I said, to choose to invest in something, but when you do, there's a lot of value in it. It's because you see a lot of potential in it. So tearing that down, especially before it's fully come to fruition based on whatever it is that you wanted to cultivate, might be very, very hard for you. And as a result, this can kind of manifest where you stay at jobs way longer than you should have. You stay in relationships that aren't serving you way longer than, things stay far past their expiration date because there is a fear of letting it go because of everything that it means. And having to start that search again and wondering, again, think about the story of the Wheel of the Zodiac, the second house, we're differentiating ourselves from our main caregiver, right? So it's saying, if this is what I find security in, imagine this is, again, going back to that main caregiver, having to cut things out of your life that you feel give you a sense of security is essentially, like touching on a very real human fear of extinction. Because there are 5 core fears that all human beings have, and that's one of them. Excuse me. And this is why I feel the Scorpio-Taurus axis can be really, really potent for people, because it does touch on it really does touch on, excuse me, that really core human fear of not having your needs met. And again, human fear of extinction, right? And what is extinction if not a form of destruction? And this is partially why this axis can have such a hard time accepting change when it's not on their terms, right? So Taurus is fine with some kinds of change that it's like, excuse me, but not outside of their comfort zone. And Scorpio is actually the same way, just in a different context. So, you know, having North Node in Scorpio really boils down to becoming more comfortable with change, being willing to cut your losses on something that's not serving you anymore, as well as really learning how to trust your intuition. And for those of you where you've had a lot of your life has been more 3D based up until this point, it's really about accepting your spirituality, and accepting your spiritual self as an equal part of you that deserves an equal, like an equal representation in your life. So that's the main overview. Now that I've talked to you guys for an exceedingly long time, let's get into your cards. So we have this card from the Blood and Honey Major Arcana deck, and I use this as an archetype deck. So this will represent the energy that your guides are encouraging you to embrace or embody at this time in order to move you closer to your North Node energy. We have a couple of cards to look at what areas of life this might be kind of playing out in or what situations, and then we have an oracle card for spirit guide message, and then I will be pulling further tarot. So here we go. Excuse me, sorry guys. Oh my gosh. Hey, the Magician. I love it. Absolutely love it. Gemini and Virgo energy here. So you guys might have those placements in your chart. Yeah, so I really like this. Part of what can go along with this axis, particularly South Node in Taurus, is like I said, there's this kind of fear around what you've invested in being destroyed or dismantled. There's a fear of insecurity. So with the Magician, what your guides are really trying to encourage you to embrace at this time is your own power to tell your story, right? Gosh, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. I'm taking a shot in the dark here. But if you guys have ever watched the movie The Brothers Bloom, first of all, it's awesome. Go do it. If you have not, it's great. Highly recommend it. But one of the main characters spent a significant amount of time in isolation in her youth. And she's telling a story about this at one point later in the, later in the movie. And essentially the premise of her story was talking about her upbringing, and you know, she was talking about how her story might seem like a sad one, but she chooses to see it as a story of somebody who, you know, because she spent a lot of her time in isolation. She was learning hobbies and skills and stuff like that. And she's like talking about how she chooses to see her story as somebody, you know, as one of somebody who can find infinite beauty in anything. And she even says that, you know, she's like, now, does this, you know, blind me to the reality of my life? Possibly. But do I feel cheated? No, I don't, because either way, I'm the one telling my story, and essentially, like, that's her power to do so, is that she gets to be the one who sets the tone for her story. It's awesome. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. But this kind of is reminding me of that energy where it's like change is going to happen to us no matter what. And staying in something that is not working for us anymore, that's decaying, that's falling away, it dies whether or not we want it to, right? And this is really about that North Node in Scorpio. Things will die, right? Things have to change. Things have to transform, whether we want it to or not. And they will keep decaying and falling away until one day we don't have anything of it left, right? Whether we want to pretend that the ship's not on fire or whether we want to acknowledge it, it doesn't, us not acknowledging it doesn't make it work for us. It just delays the time where we can be taking active steps to make solid changes in our life, if that makes sense. So with the Magician coming out, you guys are really being encouraged to, especially too, because we have the circle around his head, around his crown area, and then one around his hands. And for me, whenever I see anything emphasizing hands, this is kind of our humanity, but it's also our empowerment, because think of how much we do with our hands, right? And so this is, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. This is all about seeing yourself and your perception, like your self-perception about your power and what you're capable of differently than before. That you are the one singing your song. You are the one telling your story. You are the one setting the tone for the rest of your journey. You are the one in the driver's seat for this entire thing, right? Change might happen, like change is going to happen regardless, but you're the one who gets to decide if change is happening to you or for you. And that's completely within your power. And it takes practice to see things differently. I'm not saying, well, I'm not like coming in to be like, oh, it's fine, just look at it differently and like I solved your problem. But learning how to develop those skills, because they are skills, right? Learning how to develop those skills, how to rewire those neural pathways, how to try to start to have different perceptions and different experiences is going to vastly change the experience that you have, right? And so whatever comes your way, whatever comes together or falls apart, it'll be easier to handle, easier to almost even welcome change, because you're going to be the master of it. You're going to be telling the story here. So this is all about seizing your power, especially when it comes to your perception. So let's see what you got. I will say I try not to look at your cards, but I did end up seeing the cards out of this deck because I was trying to pull them out of the deck and they flipped over as I did. But I haven't seen the rest of your cards yet, so, and I hadn't seen this one either. Excuse me. We have, lace agate, air element, adaptability, 23, so that reduces to a 5. Again, a lot of air energy here. And then we have Neptune with perspective, Larimar, and 22. So we have a master number coming through, but that also reduces to a 4. That's like we have 22 and 23. So there's progression. We have, effort. So this is interesting because it's 13, and in the tarot, that's the death card. That's the Scorpio card. Okay. All right. And then I'll flip this one over in a minute. I want to talk about these first. So I'm almost getting with 23 then to 22. This is like a countdown. I also like that we have a 4. So it's 5, 4. It's, what was it? 5, 4, 4. There we go. So that might be a significant number for you. Excuse me. So with Neptune coming through, first of all, you could have Neptune in an air sign like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. You could also have it in Virgo. And with perspective coming out, Neptune is, in Western astrology and more modern astrology is associated with Pisces and the 12th house. And this is always kind of about a certain level of illusion, right? And we have the steps here. Steps are always indicative of ascension. So again, there is an illusion here that your guides are trying to help you kind of expand beyond. And this illusion has everything to do with your relationship to change, right? Also your relationship with effort here, how you, like what steps you take toward making changes in your life or trying to avoid change. We have yellow and red here, so very much solar plexus, root chakra energy. So this is all about feeling empowered and feeling secure within your place, within the universe. So this is kind of asking you to, again, really look at and examine your relationship to stability versus perceived instability, trying to maintain versus trying to allowing things to change. Yeah. I'm just trying to see what else I get before I start pulling more cards for you. Because there is something where this almost looks like a little bit of a waterfall into this like random little sinkhole in the sky. There's something where I feel like there's an illusion that keeps you, right? It's almost like if you're in the waterfall and you're being, the rapids are taking you this way. You're being dragged along by circumstance, and this is trying to help you ascend past that, right? Be very intentional about, it's, because normally when I see this, I'm like, okay, if you're trying to manifest this, or, keeping your thoughts in check, but I don't get that sense for you guys. This has everything to do with your own personal power. And again, it's that life happening for you, not to you. And I don't think this is in most situations. Like, I don't get the feeling you guys are, you know, sitting on the sidelines. I don't feel like you're afraid of hard work. I don't feel like you're, you know, you're struggling to like feel grounded in yourself most of the time, but there are at least a couple areas where it's like those are, again, it's like when you put value on something, that's what it's hard for you to kind of like maybe part with or allow it to change, because it throws off your whole sense of stability. So we'll pull more cards about it to kind of figure out where this might be happening in your life, and for a lot of you it's going to be different. But this is kind of talking about like where you're putting in your effort, right? Is it worth more to put in the effort to try to maintain, to try to keep things the same, try to keep going on a path, even though all signs are kind of like pointing to like, hey, this is really not working the way it's going, like something needs to change, or to put more effort into changing your perception? Because again, there's an element here of like change is going to happen no matter what. So trying to maintain, you know, is that serving you best? Is that the best utilization of your energy and effort? Because there's something here where I feel like it's these issues are going to keep coming up over and over and over again, because they need to be dealt with. And so it's like, okay, is it worth it to try to put the effort into keeping the situation the same, or keeping a lid on it based on whatever that means to you, versus changing your perception and your relationship to the concept of change? Which will require, you know, unpacking some perspectives when it comes to, you know, fear and trying to, you know, control the situation in order to feel, you know, to not be afraid. But there's something here where you might be unintentionally making things harder for yourself. So let's see what your other card is. Oh, be proud. I love this. It's time to celebrate all that you've achieved, all that you are, and all that you will become. Every once in a while, it's important to stop and acknowledge what you've achieved and to be proud. Okay, so for a lot of you, especially because she's looking up, you've already started this process, right? You've kind of opened the door to this. You've sort of been like, maybe this is where you've recognized, okay, what I'm doing isn't working anymore, but I don't really know how to move forward. There could be an energy too with South Node and Taurus, where you guys are used to always like doing the next thing, like taking the next step. And there's something about like, hey, take a moment to sort of take a break and be proud of everything that you've created here. But your guides really want you to know, like, because I feel like, again, you guys have done some of this work. She's naked, or at least what it looks like, and nakedness always implies vulnerability. And we have the peacock imagery here. So this is like, this is to me kind of your guide saying, like, as you go through this process, like any and all effort is celebrated, worth celebrating, even if it's very small, even if it's not, you know, solving the problem, so to speak. Any steps forward you take are worth celebrating, because it's hard. It's hard work, right? Especially where you're stripping away the layers and you're being very vulnerable, even just with yourself, and like very honest with yourself. That's a really difficult process, and you should be proud of yourself, right? It's not easy work to do, but it is going to be very rewarding work. And your guides kind of want to talk about that. I want to get, okay, more details. Well, damn. Should I flip it? Should I flip it? I'm hearing no, but we were like on the fence about that one. I'm gonna take this one too. All right, yeah, 8 of Wands reversed at the bottom. There's fear of moving forward. There's fear of expansion. Do I want to keep these as is? I'm gonna keep these on their side because I feel like I should. So 10 of Pentacles came out, Ace of Swords, and the Queen of Wands. I'm not surprised we have fire energy here. Woo, okay, Knight of Wands, even more so. Queen of Swords, woo, okay. And the 8 of Swords, okay. All right, I think I'm seeing what's going on here. Can you guys see all these? All right, that's not bad. We can live with that. Okay, so first of all, fire energy here, Aries, Leo, Sag. Air energy here, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Okay. So what I feel like is happening, because these 3 came out sideways, this is to me is where the energy is kind of in flux. You're trying to make decisions. I do see this here. there's something that I feel like there's something that you want with the Ace of Swords. This is a truth, right? And with the Queen of Wands, this is something that you're bringing into being. You're manifesting this. And I feel like you're starting to like look at this idea. This could be something about work. This could be something about family. With the Ten of Pentacles, this is either, I actually want to kind of clarify these two really quickly, because this is either something that is foundational to you or could be foundational to you, because they came out sideways. I'm not 100% sure, so I want to just like look really quick. Okay, the King of Pentacles reverse and the Ace of Wands coming out. Okay, so this is something, and freedom is at the bottom. This is the Chariot card in this deck. So Cancer's energy might be important. We have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn here. So what this is, this could be a relationship because we have the King and Queen. It doesn't have to be. What this is something that was foundational to you. This is like a plan that you had. This is that South Node. But this is a plan that you had. This is something that you know, this has been a part of your life for a really long time. This is something that's super important to you, or it had really long-term potential. Again, this was something that you invested in, even if it never fully came to fruition. This is something you invested in. You put that value on. You're like, okay, I want this. And you've been manifesting this with the Queen of Wands. The thing is, though, because the Queen of Wands is like sort of, I'm just noticing there's a crow here. I've used this deck a bazillion times. I've never noticed that. We have the lion in the background, so extra strong Leo, but like I've never noticed this crow. And like, I'm a hoe for crows, for sure. It's the first time I've ever said that sentence in my life. And you know what's weird is I know it's not going to be the last. So I'm just kind of sitting here coping with what I'm doing. Anywho, so this is something that you had big plans for, or that you had in your life, right? We have a 10 and then an ace, right? So this is the ending of a cycle and a new beginning. And the thing is, I feel like you're looking at this thing again, and either this was taken out of your life without your desiring of it, you know, without your consent, or this is something where you're looking at it again and you're getting a fresh perspective with the Ace of Swords. I don't think this is fully solidified. So this might be a process that you're in the middle of right now, and your spirit guides are coming through about this. But this is something where I feel like you're looking at it again. And part of you is wanting to kind of let it go. I'm not going to lie. Some of you, it's like either let go of the expectations. This could be where you're letting go of, you know, a person, a home, a job. You're letting go of something. Oh my gosh. Oh, let me just grab a tissue. Sorry. You guys, these allergies, these allergies are like absolutely killing me. Ah. Okay. One more tissue. Sorry. Ah, amazing. All right. I'm going to be hopefully relocating within the year, and that should help with all the seasonal allergies. So, because can't have seasonal allergies without seasons, right? That's totally how it works. Nobody correct me. Okay. So, yeah, this is something where I feel like you're getting a fresh perspective on it. You're toying around with a fresh perspective. So like, an example of this, some of you may have been in a long-term relationship, or you wanted a long-term relationship with somebody and it didn't pan out. And it's like you've been pining after this person, you've been waiting, you've been patient, and then you're kind of looking at the situation differently. And you're kind of like, well, you know what? Was this relationship good enough that I want this to be something? It's kind of like this energy of like, is this really helping me grow, or was this just a comfort zone for me? You know, this could be where you were going after a job. You were really climbing the ladder, trying to get to this King of Pentacles status, and you're looking at it again and you're like, okay, but if I get this, do I actually want this? Is this really what I want to be doing? So you guys are really reevaluating something that's really important, foundational here. You know, this could be a relationship with a family member being like, you know what, Like maybe this is, you've been the kind of person where it's like family is so important, family is so important. And it doesn't mean that's not true, but maybe the way that you're defining family is changing. There's something where your perception, your perspective on this is shifting. And I feel like with the Knight of Wands reversed, this is going to cause you to kind of leave this situation behind a little bit. I'm getting almost like Four of Wands reversed energy. This is going to cause you to kind of like leave this situation behind or let the chips fall where they may. Again, you're being encouraged to see your own power in telling your story here. And this is also for a lot of you because you've been going through this period of inner work. I feel like you're still in the middle of this, but you've been going through this period of inner work. And it's like I feel like your guides are telling you to be proud, because I feel like some of you are struggling with this a lot. It's like, I used to want this thing, I used to want this person, I used to be moving toward this thing. Again, that sunken cost fallacy. And you're like, what does this mean about me if I don't want this anymore? Like, I feel like this is causing you to doubt yourself a lot and to kind of doubt these qualities that you used to really appreciate about yourself, right? Like being dedicated, being steadfast, being patient, being loyal. You're having to kind of ask yourself what that really means, what that should look like in your life, and then also what you want to be loyal to. And I feel like a lot of you are struggling with this because, again, it's like you're having to struggle with not only these big questions, but also what that means for who you are, right? A lot of you are kind of like having to, with the Queen of Swords, you're having to get very clear about what you want and what you don't want, what you'll accept and what you won't accept. And I feel like this process is like, it's super important, and I think you know that, but there's a part of it where I feel like a lot of you guys are struggling, right, to accept this sort of new version of yourself that's emerging, or this new version of what you want your life to look like, right? And this is why you're being encouraged to kind of embody that magician energy and saying, you are the one telling your story, right? No matter what happens, you're the one who gets to decide how you want to look at it, where you want to invest your time. There's this energy of like, is it worth it to have the thing that you wanted, right? I'm hearing title in hand. Like, is it worth it to have finally gotten the thing that you wanted if it's not actually going to make you happy? And there's something here where you guys are having to really dismantle it. And this is really difficult because there's a lot of old programming and like layers of that under the situation. So you guys are putting in the work about deciding what you actually want to manifest, what you really want to go after, what's worth the effort. And your guides want you to be proud of yourself, right? Eight of Swords, you're kind of, we have the ivy here. This is always symbolic of unconditional love. I feel like your sense of unconditional love or loyalty for things that you've wanted or people who have been important for you might actually be the thing that's been holding you back, right? Normally there are two blindfolded cards in the tarot, and this is one of them, right? And it's like there's something where it's been making it hard for you to cut yourself free. And I feel like because we have the Queen of Swords, her expression always kills me. And she's looking at the Eight of Swords. You are kind of going through this process of cutting yourself free, right? And it's not saying you don't love these, people, that job, the circumstances, that house. It's not saying that you don't have love for them, but there's a difference between having love for it and having it be part of your path moving forward. It was an important part of your path up until this point, and you guys are deciding if it should be one as you move forward. And this is why I feel like you're being encouraged with that North Node in Scorpio to not be afraid of cutting away what's not working, not be afraid of the changes and the transformations that are coming your way. And a lot of you are kind of grappling with that right now. So I want to pull you guys a couple of cards of advice, okay? Like how your spirit guides are like, so glad you asked. Like they're not hesitating. Again, we have that Chariot card at the bottom. Some of you are looking to move and move like a long distance. So yeah, the Magician. Okay, ×2. We have the Hermit. Wow. Okay, so Gemini and Virgo, and then Virgo energy. Wow, all majors so far. We have the Wheel of Fortune reversed. Oh, and the Ten of Cups reversed. Okay. I feel like, so, with the Hermit, you're being asked to kind of spend some time, go inward, do some soul searching for sure. For some of you, it's really going to be imperative that you spend this time in some type of solitude or soul search in solitude about this issue, because the very thing that's kind of keeping you in limbo or on the fence or keeping you struggling with this dilemma are the people, because we have a lot of court cards, are the people involved in this situation. So you're being asked to kind of spend some time, or at least carve out some time in your day that's just for you. That's just for you to be thinking about it, kind of, ruminating on these topics, these subjects. Because again, with the Magician, you are telling your story. You are manifesting. You are the weaver here. You are, with the Witch as well, you are the wise person. You have what it takes. You have the you have the wisdom in a practical sense, but also too with the Hermit and North Node and Scorpio, you have that spiritual wisdom, you have that intuitive knowing, and it's about tapping into that and taking that as just as valuable information as something that's very tangible, right? The information we get intuitively is just as concrete and just as believable, just as palpable, and just as important as the more tangible things we get, like communication from somebody, like a tangible, like, material offer, right? These are just as important. And so it's really about tapping into that and trusting your own wisdom in that regard. Because I feel like with the Wheel of Fortune reverse and the 10 of Cups reverse, we have 2 10s here, so cycles are concluding. You have a lot of 10s and 1s, so this is telling me there's the ending of a cycle that's trying to kind of culminate and the beginning of a new cycle that's trying to take root. Excuse me. And I feel like this ending of a cycle is something where there's a lot of fear here with the Wheel of Fortune reversed, I'm feeling. So for some of you, there's a fear that moving in this new direction that you feel called to is going to require that you give up something that will make you happy. But a lot of you, what the fear is here is that you're going to get this opportunity from Spirit, from the universe, and you're going to take it, and it's going to end up leading to, like, the destruction of your happiness. That's the fear here. And I feel like what your team is asking you to do is take time to really, like, think about those themes. If that resonates with you especially, think about those themes about, like, okay, what is, because this is all about changes happening, right? And I feel like the biggest fear is that with it being reversed, the wheel will turn, the universe will make changes, and they're going to feel unlucky for you. They're going to feel like the disillusion of your happiness. It's going to feel like you're losing out on something, but you're being asked to kind of revisit your fears around the subject. I do want to pull a clarifier for these two in particular. The Two of Wands, okay. Yeah, so I want to pull this one too. And then the Page of Pentacles. This is a new venture that's coming up for you with Jupiter pictured on the card. First of all, we have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn here. But with Jupiter pictured on the card, Jupiter energy here, this is meant to help expand you. This is something that you've been calling in. Yeah, and then the Knight of Swords, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So again, a lot of court cards, a lot of new people coming into your... And then we have the Hanged Man with Neptune at the bottom. A lot of new people that would be coming in as a result, or there are a lot of people wrapped up in this situation. And especially where we've had a pretty even distribution of, like, we've seen a few pages come out, we've seen a couple knights come out, we've seen some kings and queens. There's a lot of different people. There's also, this can represent with all the different, ages of the court cards, that this is something where you're leaving behind cycles or situations that have been with you for a very long time. They've been a part of your developmental process. And now that we see more like kings and queens, really mature energy, excuse me, you're having to leave behind something that has served you for a very long time, but ultimately is, I feel like for many of you, you've grown past this. But to clarify these two cards, I want to talk about this Two of Wands. In the traditional deck, we see a man, he's standing on a castle wall. This lady's standing on a cactus in space, which is just as good. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. I don't know, like, in the traditional card we see, I don't know, they're not in fucking space. Like, I like it, I'm here for it, but just like, a comparison right here. Anywho, in the traditional card, we see a man, and he's standing on a castle wall, and he's looking out over the castle wall. In his right hand, he's holding a globe. In his left hand, he's holding a wand, and to his right, like on the wall, there's another wand that's bolted to the wall. So this is all about needing to make decisions. This is also about, what is it? Oh, this can be like you're going through a portal, you're having a new experience, you're stepping into new energy. But to me, this also, the biggest thing that the Two of Wands represents, and I love this card specifically because of these two things, is first of all, this is where you're like toying with an idea. And we did see that Ace of Wands pop out earlier. This is where you're you're toying with an idea, right? The Ace of Wands is that inspiration, that like, ooh, wouldn't that be cool if? So the example I always give for this is that, let's say that Ace of Wands moment for you is like, oh, you know, it would be great. I would love to just pack everything and move across the country to, you know, XYZ location. And you know, that Ace of Wands is like, you're excited about the idea. It's like, oh, that would be so cool. I could do this, I could do that. You know, you're just like getting into the idea. And the Two of Wands is when you're toying around with it a little bit more and you're kind of just like, okay, you know, this is where you start maybe looking up average apartment costs in the area that you're thinking of moving to. This is where you start to look at like what jobs in your field are out there. You know, this is where you're like, okay, you know, I could apply for this, this, and this and line up a few interviews. And if those go well, then I could do this. I could move all my stuff out and like, you know, this many trips, or like you're really thinking about it. You're toying around with it. And this is because you're starting to like kind of be in this place of like, I could do this. Like, could I? I could do this. No one can stop me, right? At least that's what it sounds like when I do my Two of Wands stuff. However, this might manifest for you probably a lot less unhinged than what I'm going to do. But there's something where it's like you're really toying with this idea. And the thing is, you know, following the Ace of Wands, this is like you have this new... Sorry, I'm thinking about this too because we have the wand pictured right here. There are a bunch of cards here that aren't wands suit cards that still have wands like very prominently featured in the card. There's a bunch in this deck. So there's this energy of like, I could do this. Could I? But I do feel like this is taking you off of a path that you thought that you wanted. And I feel like there's an element of waiting for whatever this is. Either you're like, I've just got to put in the effort. I got to put in the grind, you know, like nose to the grindstone now, and then I'll get to where I want to be later. If this is like a relationship, maybe you guys are like separated and you're waiting for this person to come back around, or you guys are together, but you're waiting for that next level of commitment. There's something here where it's like, you're really asking yourself now, and I feel like this is the first time you're really looking at and asking yourself this. You're like, all right, is the juice worth the squeeze here? Like, I don't know why that phrase always makes me giggle. You know, you're really sitting here and asking yourself that. And I feel like a lot of you feel bad for asking that. Like, how could I even say that? Because again, there's a sense of security in whatever this is. But you're being asked to kind of think about, how do you want to tell your story, right? How do you want to respond, not react to what is happening around you, right? If everything else around you is changing, how do you want to flow with that energy? Because it's totally up to you. The other thing the Two of Wands can talk about to me, because the man in the traditional cards got the wand in his left hand, and he's got the globe in his right. This is where you really wrapped up a big cycle, or you have a lot of options in front of you, right? And there is that wand that's bolted to the wall to his right, and this always kind of represents the more established path. Something that you've already, you know, this is the direction you've been going, this is what you had planned on, this is what is more familiar to you, this is what seems like a more secure option. But I think, you know, with a traditional Two of Wands, if it was a moment in time, right, and we could like press play on that moment, and we told the man on the card, like, pick a wand and go, just run with it, I think it stands to reason he'd take the wand that's already in his left hand. And the left side of the body is very associated with the divine feminine, so intuitively he's got this, you know, with the wand in his left hand, this means there is a path to which he is intuitively drawn. You know, he wants to pursue this, he has an interest in it, and that intuitive draw that he feels is given to him for purpose. There's a spiritual reason, right? It's been put in his heart for a reason. So I feel like for you guys, with these cards clarified by the Two of Wands, this is a situation where you've gotten that inspiration. You kind of want to go in a different path, but you're wondering, like, am I making the right choice? Do I do this? So there is a call to lean heavily on your intuition at this time. But again, to also really think about, you know, you have the power here. how do you want to tell your story? Because with the Page of Pentacles reverse here and Jupiter kind of showing up, a new beginning is going to have to start for you one way or another. And you get to be the one really telling the story and being in charge of what do you want this new beginning to look like, to entail? What do you want? Where do you, because where our energy flows, that's what grows, right? You're going to manifest where you put your energy. So is the thing that you've been trying to manifest even real? Like, is it true to you at the soul anymore? Right? What needs to break down in order to get to where you want to go? And to really address the fears around, if I take this leap, towards something new, towards something else, what am I afraid will happen, right? And with these two, this is kind of like this energy of, I'm afraid that it's not going to work out. I'm afraid that I'm going to miss my chance at being happy. I'm afraid that, whatever I've been waiting on is my actual real fulfillment, my real happiness, my divine path. I'm afraid that, pursuing something else will mean that I don't get that, right? And so these are all things that you're being asked to kind of address and work through at this time, because you can manifest and have what you want. You guys are not afraid to put in the effort, not afraid to, sweat it out. You're not afraid to be patient, but this is asking, how patient do you want to be when it comes to your own happiness, right? Because we can lose a lifetime waiting for, what we perceive to be the perfect thing, what we perceive to be our happiness, if it's not in alignment with who we really are, right? And even if we get there, we're not going to enjoy it as much as we did. So there's something here about really reevaluating things that you have prioritized in order to make sure that they are going to feed you, to nurture you, to nourish you, and make you happy. So that way the level of effort you're putting into it is given back to you tenfold in terms of what it brings to your life. So I think this is just about everything that I'm seeing for you guys. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It's always an honor, a joy, and a delight, and I hope I get to read for you in the future. Take care, love bugs. Bye.